Yo, what's up, guys? C-Jax back with another Raw recap, man. And I gotta say, Raw is now 2 hours and it still sucks. Absolutely sucks, man. This episode, I kid you not, barely anything happened. Barely anybody showed up to work. Any of the stars on Raw actually showed up to work. And on top of that, now that you have it at 2 hours, you have some of the similar issues to SmackDown, which we'll touch on in a second. Now, before I get to what actually happened in this episode, I do want to quickly say, this episode, or Raw in general now being like 2 hours, is actually a mixed bag. Now, the best thing about Raw being 2 hours is the fact that it's 2 hours, right? You get one less hour of garbage content, so that's good. I can now get these reviews out earlier, and I can get to bed earlier, you know what I'm saying? And also, we get to watch less garbage content like I mentioned before. But at the same time, now that it's 2 hours, you're going to be missing out on certain people in the show. Like, the Judgment Day and the storyline with Rhea and Liv has gotten absolutely stale and garbage, but I would much rather see that than see the collection of 10 jobber women in a ring wrestling it out, which we're going to get to that a little bit later too, but that was just nonsense, right? And there's some other issues with the Raw being 2 hours that we'll get to in a little bit later, but let's start off with what actually happened on the show. CM Punk started off, Sexy Red started off. She came out and started twerking or doing whatever she was saying and saying, "Welcome to Raw." I mean, nobody really cares, right? I don't really care about Sexy Red, and nobody really listens to her music as far as I'm concerned. Anyone I know, no one listens to that garbage. So CM Punk started off the show, and he basically comes out, he's limping out or whatever, and he basically says, isn't it great to be back in the city of St. Louis? Isn't it a great day to be in New York? Isn't it a great day to be in Philly? Like, he just says the same thing no matter where he goes, right? But pretty much the summary of this promo in this segment is this. CM Punk basically thanks his haters, he thanks his fans, and he thanks his peers and his co-workers backstage, and he basically is thankful for them, and he's like, I wouldn't have been able to do all this without you, and I'm glad to be back. But he says he doesn't know what's next for him, right? He doesn't know what to do now after this Hell in a Cell. He has mixed feelings for some reason about the Hell in a Cell. A week ago he was intense and he was ready to beat up Drew McIntyre and possibly, quote unquote end him in the ring. But then all of a sudden a week later now he doesn't know how to feel about it and he doesn't know what's next and he's da-da-da-da and all this other stuff. It's nonsense. But at the end of the day, CM Punk put on a very, very good match that I liked with Drew McIntyre. I don't think the match is amazing or peak. I think it's overrated in that aspect by a lot of people. However, the match was pretty good and I liked it. So Punk's probably going to end up taking a few weeks or even a month or two off. And then, honestly, at this point, it's earned. He's in his mid-40s, late 40s, whatever he is, and he wrestled a good match and he went through war in that cell, so he gets his break. But after he says he doesn't know what's next and he puts the mic down, Seth Rollins' music hits and he basically comes out and kind of has a stare down with Punk. This is obviously signifying that, down the line, probably in the WrestleMania build-up, WrestleMania season, we are going to likely be building up to a Seth Rollins versus CM Punk feud and match at WrestleMania 41. Obviously, I'm excited for this, but the problem is that we're not going to see the continuation of any of this stuff between these two for probably another 2 or 3 months at the very minimum. But once it does kick off, these two are going to put on some pretty good work, I'm assuming. Then after this, Seth Rollins walks down to the ring, and he basically says the usual, "I am a visionary, a revolutionary, Seth freaking Rollins." I like Seth Rollins. He's one of my favorite wrestlers, but, this whole visionary gimmick, like, I kind of feel like this dude needs to fully turn heel, man. I think Seth Rollins as a heel will be very good. It'll be a good character change. He's been a face now for like the better part of 2 years. I think it's time now to switch it up, especially when, when Punk comes back and you have that feud. It's time for Rollins to switch this up and let's get crazy. You know what I'm saying? Then after this, he basically says the final boss is back. A lot has happened since I came back. The final boss, The Rock, is officially back. Cody Rhodes is teaming with Roman Reigns. And he was like, lifts his glasses down a little bit at that because he's kind of like irritated by it, or in a sense, or at least that's what he implied. He's like kind of confused by what happened there. And then he talks about like Kevin Owens hit Cody Rhodes, and he's like, "Oh, well, that happened, but I can't talk about it." It's just a bunch of boring stuff. And then he basically says at the end of the promo, "I'm going to fight Bronson Reed whenever Bronson Reed is ready." He calls Bronson Reed Big Boy like 8 times. He's like, "Big boy, we're going to fight. Big boy, you want this fight? Big boy, you want to go? Big boy, you want to fight? Big boy, you want to beat Seth Rollins?" I'm like, dude, we get it. You're going to have a match, and that's the end of this promo. He gets interrupted by Jey Uso. Jey Uso comes out, gets a great reaction from this crowd that was mostly dead all night. But Jey Uso gets a great reaction, and he yeets and everything like that. And then pretty much after this happens, Xavier Woods comes out, and they have a match, Jey Uso versus Xavier Woods for the IC title. And to put it nicely, or neatly as I should say, you know what I'm saying? Wheatley, so good, I drink it neatly. Cody Rhodes was on this show, ladies and gentlemen, so we're going to get into that in a second too. But yeah, they basically have this match. This match was mid, it was slow, it had a couple botches, and quite frankly, I don't really understand why we're doing Xavier versus Jay. And by the end of this match, we already knew Jay was going to win. He won in like 10 minutes. It was a pretty short match. And after this happens, Braun Breaker returns. And he, or not returns, he was there last week too, but he comes back and he spears Jey Uso and kind of returns heel. Last week, it kind of appeared like he was turning face, but then he just absolutely speared the crap out of Jey Uso after this match and basically starts yelling. And then he spears Kofi Kingston after Kofi Kingston tries to help out Jay. And then he ends up spearing Xavier Woods as well, and then he stands over Jay with the IC title, man. Braun Breaker, is brutal, and this dude is going to be a superstar one day. We already know this, and the fact that this is a good heel turn, I should say, right? Because they really did make you think that this dude was going to be a face and that he was going to go after Gter, but now that he's back going after Jey Uso, I just think that's very entertaining, and the way they had him come back and just spear him out of nowhere was unexpected, and this was a pretty solid moment. After this, I'm pretty sure we got like some backstage segment with Rhea Ripley, which we need to talk about this for a second. Rhea Ripley now, along with this 2-hour thing, your top stars sometimes are not even going to be on the show. It's very awkward and weird. Like Cody Rhodes, for some reason, just like wasn't showing up on certain episodes of SmackDown over the summer. And it's like, okay, why is the WWE champion just not showing up to work? And that's the same case with Rhea Ripley, Damian Priest, etc. Why are these people not showing up to work? Rhea Ripley cuts a video promo segment package, whatever you want to call it, and says absolutely nothing. And after she says nothing, we then get greeted with a plethora of garbage production botches from the WWE team. We try and flash backstage to show Cody Rhodes being on camera, but of course the cameras glitch out and the feed glitches, so we have to go back to the desk with Joe and with Joe Tessitore and Wade Barrett, and Wade Barrett's like laughing at the production issues. Then we get out of that, we try to flash back to the backstage again to show Cody Rhodes, I think, or to show somebody else, and it glitches again. And then you're just left looking at the crowd awkwardly while there's just lights floating around. And then we flash back to Joe Tessitore and Wade Barrett again. Just a bunch of production botchy issues that were just very awkward and weird. After these production issues, we pretty much got the, this little video package for Sheamus that played. And then we got the highlight of the night. Sheamus versus Pete Dunne in a Donnybrook match. This was absolutely awesome. Sheamus is a legend, and every single match that he's had this year, I kid you not, maybe besides one match versus Pete Dunne a few weeks ago, whenever that was, but other than that, every match this dude has had on Raw this year has been awesome. Every single one of them, bro. Just name one, and they've all been great. Sheamus is great in the ring. He's physical. He has a plethora of moves. And on top of that, Sheamus is like, what, in his late 40s still doing this? This dude is an absolute monster, man. And him and Pete Dunne have great spots. This absolute crazy white noise he hit through a table. You had Pete Dunne ripping out drawers of like a desk and like hitting Sheamus with it. He zip-tied Sheamus's hands together. And then Sheamus hit a bro kick and a high knee with it. And then won the match. This was awesome, man. Pete Dunne is still an absolute jobber, don't get me wrong, but in these creative, gimmick matches like the Donnybrook and, the Shillelaghs and all this other stuff they were hitting each other with, this was physical, it was brutal. Sheamus cut his arm up and was limping after the match. This is an absolute war. And to get this on Raw for a 2-hour show, knowing that we don't have that extra level of garbage, kind of lets you forget that Raw, was garbage tonight, you know what I'm saying? This is a very good match. Sheamus is awesome as per usual, and Pete Dunne did a pretty solid job for himself, okay? So I really like this match. I think it's the highlight of the night and the best match we've had on Raw. Well, actually, I can't even say in a long time because honestly, Bronson Reed versus Braun Strowman last week was epic as well, and it was better than this match, but this match was still really good. Then after this, what happened next after this match, man? I think we had a little backstage segment here with Liv Morgan and Dom and Raquel Rodriguez and what's her name, man? Whatever the little announcer is, man, Jackie Redmond or Kathy Kelly, it's the same person. She basically asked Liv Morgan, she's like, well, how do you feel now that you've beaten Rhea Ripley and Raquel is back as your firepower? Your whatever she called her, your I don't even know, your protector, some stuff like that. And pretty much Liv Morgan basically says, I kid you not, she's like, we're done with Rhea Ripley, and you know what? Let's just go. You're done with questions. Because she tries to ask Raquel, are you part of the Judgment Day? And then Raquel just looks away, opens Dom's car door for him, which is weird. I guess this guy's too much of a beta. He can't even open his own car door for his girl, but, whatever, man. That pretty much happened, and that's the end of this segment. It's boring, nothing happened, and Liv Morgan doesn't even cut a promo with Nia Jax, leading up to their Crown Jewel match. But again, just like Cody Rhodes, this is the next thing that happened. Cody Rhodes had a segment backstage with Sami Zayn. Sami Zayn's pretty much like, yeah, Cody, I promise you, or I want to be the guy to fight you at Crown Jewel and all this stuff. And Cody's like, listen, I don't want to talk about what happened with Kevin Owens. I know he's your friend, and I know the past and the backstory with that, but we're not going to deal with that right now. I'm just here to see what it takes to win at Crown Jewel. And then Cody Rhodes pretty much just tells Sami that to his face. We all knew Sami wasn't going to win. Now, let me tell you something, though. I didn't know that because I actually thought Sami was going to win this match later tonight because of the promotional poster they released earlier and because it's in Saudi Arabia where Sami's a big deal over there and in those PLEs. But they didn't do it. Gter won that, but we'll get to that in a second. After this backstage segment, we pretty much got treated with the absolute jobber collective. You talk about the pure fusion collective. This was the pure jobber collective. There was 10 jobbers inside of this match, and that's every single wrestler that was in this match. Natalya, Zelina Vega, Lyra, the Party Girls, whatever, Katana Chance and Kaden Carter, whatever. The PFC, the pure jobber collective, you know what I'm saying? The pure JC, I should say. And then you had Unholy Union. And I'm like, goodness gracious. Now that Raw is 2 hours, get accustomed to seeing this. Now the problem is that because it's 2 hours, you can't have these spread out matches with the PFC and these other jobber women anymore. You have to just include them all in one specific segment so you can get your woman work over with for the night. And that's what they did here. This match was bad. You could barely keep track of the action that was going on because there's 10 people in the match. Zelina Vega botched a moonsault so bad it almost made her look like a rookie. It's almost as bad as Gter's splash that he hits normally, right? It's not even a splash. I call it the trash because Gter's splashes are just so unathletic and look awful, but we'll get to that later. Zelina Vega pretty much just botches. Sonya Deville botches. Shayna Baszler doesn't do anything in this match. The Unholy Union literally did nothing in this match. So that's pretty much that. And then by the end of it, Lyra Valkyria hit like a big leg drop, and I guess that's all it takes now. These PFC people are supposed to be these big, bad group of women and all this other stuff, and then they lose to one leg drop. You see what I'm saying? The booking is just so contradictory, man, and it makes absolutely no sense. So you have this match, and that's pretty much it. All right, the match was what it was. It was garbage, and it had 10 jobbers in it, which I've never seen a jobber collective that big, but hey, there's a first time for everything, am I right? Then after this match, we get a couple of video segments with like Jade Cargill and Bianca Belair announcing they're going to fight the Damage Control next week for the women's tag belts, and that's pretty much that, right? Then you get to the main event. I'm pretty sure, right? I don't think I'm missing anything. Yeah, that was pretty much it. And there was also this little segment here. I forgot about this with Ethan Page from NXT. This was decent because, Ethan Page, I actually think he has a decent amount of talent, right? He's a solid wrestler overall. I don't think he's ever going to be anything above like a mid-carder when he comes to the main roster, but he still has some talent. He's basically complaining about what CM Punk did to him at last week's premiere episode of NXT on the CW when CM Punk hit a GTS on him, and you have Sexy Red interrupts, and he's like talking to Adam Pearce. So I guess this is teasing something down the line for Ethan Page and CM Punk to feud, but again, this isn't really carrying any implications, and quite frankly, I didn't really care about this segment. After this, you get the main event, Gter versus Sami Zayn. This match was mid. I am tired of everyone overrating Gter in the ring like he's some legend. Don't get me wrong, the match with Drew and Sheamus at Mania 39 was awesome. And I think that versus bigger opponents that don't have like these high-flying movesets and all this other stuff, these more athletic movesets, like a guy like Drew McIntyre or Sheamus who, they're great they have great movesets, but it doesn't predicate on them needing to do like high-flying and these super athletic moves. They just need to be themselves and be physical, and those matches work really well with Gunter's skill set. I'll give you that, right? But here's the issue. Gter has a match with Sami Zayn right here that was worse than their match at Mania. And that's not to mention that in this match, there's nothing really exciting that happened at all. There was a 2-minute sequence at the end where they kind of made you think Sami was going to break out of the sleeper and possibly win the match, but then he just lost. And it's the way that he lost to me that makes no sense. Obviously, I didn't really want Sami to win this match, but you cannot tell me that this guy at WrestleMania 40 hit 2 haluva kicks and Gter was knocked out for a 3 count, but in this match, he hits 2 haluva kicks, 1 in the ring. I think I actually hit 2 in the ring and then 1 outside of the ring, and that wasn't enough to put down Gter? Gter just counters out of it and hits a clothesline, but Sami can't counter out of a headlock? Or a sleeper hold? Like, what is this? The contradictories in the booking here is just nonsense, and it makes you think it's like, since Gter has won world title at SummerSlam, which in the match versus Damian Priest, it was a pretty good match versus Damian. I think it was his best match probably, honestly, of the year, like dead up, because he hasn't really wrestled many matches this year, but outside of that, what has he done? Since he won the belt, the match versus Orton at Bash in Berlin was trash in my opinion. It was overrated, it was slow, it was boring, and almost put me to sleep. And then you had, what else happened? What? He wrestled tonight versus Sami. He's had 2 matches since winning the title, I'm pretty sure, and they've both been pretty much mediocre in their own right. This is sad, dude. He's had a couple funny segments since becoming champ, but for the most part, he's barely showed up to work. He barely wrestles, and when he has wrestled since winning the belt, they've been mid-matches. Braun Breaker would be a better champion than this dude because Braun Breaker has more charisma, he cuts better promos in my opinion, and he's better in the ring. He puts on more entertaining matches and better, better feuds so far. His feud with Jey Uso alone was better than any feud Gunther's had all year. All year! And Jey Uso and Braun Breaker's feud only lasted 5 weeks and had like 3 segments leading up to it. And that alone was already better than anything Gunther's done this year, yet he has the world title and Braun Breaker's trying to fight Jey for the IC belt? Like, this just doesn't connect. And then after this, because this is just to decide, like, what the championship match for the Crown Jewel title is going to look like at Crown Jewel. And it's going to be Cody Rhodes versus Gunther. We already probably knew this. Most of us did. Like I said, I thought Sami was going to win. But at the end of the day, I mean, no one as of like 2 days ago thought that if there was a match like this announced, that Cody Rhodes was going to end up fighting anyone else than Gunther for that Crown Jewel title at Crown Jewel. You see what I'm saying? So Cody stands off with him at the match. The feed cuts. And that's your first episode of your 2-hour Raw. And honestly, man, I mean, this episode was pretty bad. It was pretty bad. Like you heard in the whole review, the only thing that I actually thought was good was the Donnybrook match. That was it. The Donnybrook match was awesome, but what else was awesome on this show? You had mid-matches and mid-segments and mid-feuds and just bad promos and jobber matches. What am I supposed to say about this that's good other than the fact that it's only 2 hours now, so we get 1 less hour of garbage? That's all that's improved. But it's still the same quality show. It's just 1 hour less. So I have nothing to really say about this. Your stars aren't showing up to work as per usual, so that's always a problem. And again, if you're like a Brock Lesnar or a Roman Reigns or like someone like that or Randy Orton and you're not showing up to work, that's one thing because you've earned your right to do that. But if you're Damian Priest or Rhea Ripley or Liv Morgan who openly just says on camera, hey, I'm leaving work, let's just get out of here. Like, who are you? You know what I'm saying? Who are you? Liv Morgan could leave WWE right now, and they wouldn't lose a dime if she left. See? Same thing with Damian Priest, and Finn Balor and these other jobbers. So you should be at work. You have no excuse not to be at work. So, but anyways, man. Boring matches, bad matches, and underwhelming matches. Barely any promos, so thankfully we were saved from the garbage Judgment Day and the Liv promos and Rhea and all that stuff. But yeah, this is an uneventful episode of Raw. It was 2 hours, so it's 1 less hour of garbage. But overall, it's still bad television. So nothing has really changed. Last week's episode of Raw was better. The week before that also had a better Raw. And this was honestly a disaster. So yeah, that's what I think about it. Let me know what you think about the 2 hour Raw. And as always, I hope you guys have a phenomenal day. Deuces. Ooses.